Download and upload more than ever before with an ultra-fast fiber connection. With 3 simple steps, you can be the one with an SLT fiber optic connection. Visit slt.lk.
Tonight, financial roadmap. Defence yet again dominates monetary allocations as the Appropriation Bill 2019 presented in Parliament. Education, however, sees little improvement. End of the line. Notorious underworld kingpin Markandure Madhush arrested at a hotel in Dubai alongside a prominent local artist. A different tune. The Minister of Finance withdraws transfer papers on the Director General of Customs, says will reinstate her for 3 months. The trade unions who protested against the transfer calls off their strike just hours ago. Needed no more. Dinesh Chandimal dropped for the series with South Africa, with Dimuth Karunaratne set to lead the side. Tonight, Tuesday, the 5th of February, 2019.
From Derana. This is Derana First at 9 with Ndivaria Muwata and Mahesh Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome to First at 9 right here on Derana 24. Good evening.
Good evening, Mahesh.
Well, yesterday we celebrated the 71st anniversary of our independence from British rule, and most of you were at home watching the entire parade which went down on Face. And one thing that was interesting on social media was the fact that most were talking about the fact that apparently it was not the Sri Lankans who got independence from the British, but it was the British who got the independence from Sri Lankans.
Quite interesting comment. 71 years into independence from British colonial rule, we Sri Lankans, it's quite interesting. Most of our young Sri Lankans come out on social media to question the independence, whether it's really independence. And some say, Queen Elizabeth, come, take us back under your rule.
And there was one more thing which they said apparently we lost a chance of getting free EU membership.
British citizenship, I'd say.
Yes.
Well, we get on to our local news, our headline-making stories tonight. The much-anticipated appropriation bill for the financial year of 2019 was presented to Parliament by Leader of the House, Minister Lakshman Kiriyala, today. Accordingly, the expected total expenditure for the remaining year stands at 4.5 trillion rupees, while the expected revenue is 2.39 trillion rupees. The total sum of 2.2 trillion rupees is expected for debt servicing.
Now, the budget proposal is scheduled to be presented to the Parliament a month from today. That is on the 5th of March, and the budget speech will also be delivered on the same day. Now, here's an in-depth look at this year's appropriation bill.
The Appropriation Bill 2019, which was presented by Leader of the House, Minister Lakshman Kiriyala, was read out to the House by Secretary General of Parliament, Dhammika Dasanayake, today.
This bill is presented for the allocation of money as service provisions, state provisions, and to vest power to obtain foreign and domestic loans, to borrow money from the Consolidated Fund or other funds in favour of the government, so that loans can be paid back in instalments.
The newly presented appropriation bill for the financial year 2019 has allocated a total of 14 billion rupees for the President, in comparison to 11 billion last year and 8 billion rupees in 2017. A total of 2 billion rupees have been allocated for the Prime Minister's office, the same amount as the previous year. Ministry of Defence meanwhile continues to attract the highest amount in allocations with 393 billion rupees for 2019. That is a jump of 9 billion from the previous year. With a total allocation of 292 billion rupees, the Ministry of Provincial Councils and Local Government is allocated the second highest amount of money. It is a significant increase of 64 billion rupees from the previous year. The third highest sum of 263 billion rupees is given for the Ministry of Public Administration and Disaster Management, with a 20 billion rupee increase from 2018. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health gets a total of 187 billion rupees through the Appropriation Bill for 2019. Ministry of Highways and Road Development sees a 10 million rupee hike in its allocations, with a sum for 2019 totaling 176 billion rupees. Ministry of Agriculture is allocated 114 billion rupees, an increase of 52 billion from the previous year. The education sector, however, has not drawn as much attention in the context of the Appropriation Bill. Last year, 104 billion rupees was allocated for the Ministry of Education, and the sum has only gone up by a billion this year. Ministry of Housing, Construction and Cultural Affairs is allocated 17 billion rupees, while the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development is given 50 billion rupees. The total sum allocated for the Ministry of Tourism Development and Christian Religious Affairs is 5 billion rupees, which is a 3 billion rupee hike from the previous year. Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, meanwhile, is allocated 1 billion rupees. The expected non-interest recurrent expenditure for 2019, including salaries and wages for government employees, pensions, welfare and subsidies, stand at 1,425 billion rupees. Meanwhile, the expected capital expenditure for this year is 838 billion. In the meantime, a total sum of 2,200 billion rupees is expected for debt services, with 900 billion rupees for interest payments and 1,300 billion rupees for debt repayment. A total of 77 billion rupee provision is also allocated for rural economic development projects such as Gamperiliya, regional infrastructure development and Grama Shakti. As per the Appropriation Bill 2019, the expected total expenditure for the remaining year stands at 4,550 billion rupees, while the expected revenue is 2,390 billion rupees. The estimated budget deficit for 2019 is 2,160 billion rupees, and the government has set a borrowing limit of the same amount for the rest of the year. The 2019 budget proposal is set to be presented to Parliament on 5th of March, followed by the budget speech on the same day.
Well, news that broke during the day was of an arrest of a prominent figure. At last, Sri Lankan Underworld kingpin Markandre Madhush is in custody. The notorious Underworld leader, who is known to be linked to various criminal activities, including murder and drug racketeering, was arrested during a joint operation in Dubai.
Yes, Mahesh, Pilli said that several other prominent underworld figures are among the 25 who were arrested, including populist Sri Lankan artist Amal Pereira. The suspects were reportedly arrested at a hotel in Dubai during a joint operation carried out by law enforcement officers from both Sri Lanka and Dubai.
Underworld kingpin Markandre Madhush, who is also known as the godfather among underworld figures in Sri Lanka, was arrested during a party at a hotel in Dubai. The arrest was made during a joint operation by law enforcement officers from both Sri Lanka and Dubai. Police state that among those arrested were several members attached to criminal gangs, as well as artists including singer Amal Pereira. Images of the arrest surfaced on social media. Police officers also seized drugs which were found in the possession of the suspects. Markandre Madhush, who is known as Samrasingha Arachage Madhus Lakshita, was in self-imposed exile abroad owing to his underworld affiliations. There are, however, reports which say that the kingpin visited the island on multiple occasions despite being on international watch lists. Markandre Madhush came into the spotlight when he was linked to the murder of the late chairman of the Southern Provincial Development Authority, Danny Hittatia, in 2006. Since then, he has been involved in over 50 murders and is also suspected to have planned the shooting of another underworld figure, Samayang, in Kalutara in 2017 while being transported in a prison bus. Furthermore, police investigations reveal that several murders which took place in Colombo and Galle during the recent past was orchestrated by the notorious underworld figure's closest allies. In May of 2017, Markandre Madhush was also said to have been involved in the attack on the OIC of the anti-narcotics unit at the Pilli police near Marangajiva and several other officers. Markandre Madhush is suspected to be one of the main figures who are said to be involved in large-scale drug racketeering in the country, second to Potta Naufa. Meanwhile, on a separate note, 3 persons were arrested with a consignment of 110 kilograms of heroin in the area of Pilli today. The haul was seized during a raid conducted by the Excise Narcotics Bureau this morning. According to the media spokesperson of the Sri Lanka Excise Department, Kapila Kumarasinghe, the variety of heroin is identified as brown sugar.
Well, in other local news, visiting President of the Maldives, Ibrahim Solih, today officially called on President Maithripala Sirisena at the Presidential Secretariat. He also held bilateral talks with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe last night.
President of Maldives Ibrahim Solih arrived in Sri Lanka for a 3-day state visit on Sunday upon an invitation extended by President Maithripala Sirisena. He was invited as the chief guest to the 71st Independence Day celebrations of the island. A meeting between President Sirisena and the President of Maldives was held at the Presidential Secretariat today, and a special welcome ceremony was organized for the visiting head of state. A guard of honor with a 21-gun salute was accorded for the Maldivian president. It was after that the official meeting between the presidents got underway.
Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa questions the motive behind those who continue to call for a Tamil elam when there are more pressing issues affecting the people. During a special meeting with editors of Tamil newspapers this morning, the opposition leader also said that the judicial restrictions brought upon the 51-day interim government prevented the release of political prisoners. He also dismissed UNP's plans of a national government as a mere plan to increase the number of ministers.
So what is happening in the country? National government. I'm a tikam medical gandani.
Constitution again for change English.
A constitution can't be prepared in haste. Sumandiran and Jayampathy are the ones who changed this, and there are a lot of issues. I did not introduce the 18th Amendment for me to contest once more. The reason was that no one listens to the President, including the Prime Minister or any official, with only 2 years left in the government's tenure.
Ministers, officials,
after 26 then අපිට release කරන්න පුළුවන් අපි ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒ 50 දවස් 51ක් තිබුණා. ඒ කාලය ඇතුළේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒක කරන්න බැරි වුණේ.
ඒ කාලේ බලයක් නෑනේ.
We didn't have power by then because the court gave an order prohibiting us. I released 12,500 ex-LTT cadres before, but you're attempting to skim over that. No, we're not with the President. We oppose when we have to. Yes, I'm the chairman of the joint opposition. No, you will see the effects of it if police powers are given to the provincial councils. You'll have to be servile to the Chief Minister. Can people continue to demand an elam, chanting slogans? Youth don't have jobs. Farmers are unable to sell their produce because they don't have a good market price, and a factory has not been opened since I did. This is the state of affairs, so what are they talking about? Different states can't be formed either. I have spoken with Tamil leaders regarding this issue before. Even after those discussions, they changed their stance. They thought Ranil Wickremesinghe would do anything if he was brought back to power.
Now, the topic of a national government is yet again dominating the political arena, with Leader of the House, Minister Lakshman Kiriyala, saying last week that it has already done so with a proposal to increase the number of ministers set to be tabled in Parliament on Thursday. The motion was vehemently opposed by President Maithripala Sirisena. This was during his Independence Day national address. Rumours has it that the UNP intends to pair up with the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, which only features one parliamentarian, and the President objected to a national government being formed under such circumstances. Now, in a bid to deter any rough action, General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, MP Dasari Jayasekara, today said that disciplinary action will be taken against those who would vote in favour of a national government.
The United National Front signed a separate agreement with the United National Party. Therefore, the UNP is unable to form a national government with a party which is already with them. The Muslim Congress is one faction of the UNF. I suggest the members of SLFP and the UPFO to vote against the national government. We will take disciplinary action against any member who votes in favour of it.
Parliamentary, ජනාධිපතිතුමා ගන්න තීරණය මොකක්ද?
100 million. 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 100 million.
The decision will be taken then. I do not know what his view is. What he said was that he is against it. If it passes in Parliament, we will have to act accordingly. However, there are things we can do before things reach that stage, and we will do them. According to the composition in Parliament, a single party can't run the government. There has to be a national government to gain a majority. This is the reason why the government has decided to go for a national government. We will form this national government according to the constitution, so no one can point the finger at us. When a suggestion was brought to increase the cabinet before, we opposed it. Therefore, we will not back an increment to the number of cabinet ministers this time either. Our stance is that there should be a national government. We have constantly stressed that it is only under a national government that decisions pertaining to the constitution can be taken where two major parties are together. Therefore, we will not oppose if a national government is formed with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. But we will oppose it if they form a national government only to increase the cabinet.
Now move on the national government. The United National Party's claim to have formed a national government is contested by leader of the Pivithuruhela Urumaya, UPFA parliamentarian Uday Gamman-Pilla. The parliamentarian challenges the UNP's claim, saying that the constitution does not have provisions for one political party to form a national government with another singular party, as the number of joining parties should exceed one. Now speaking at a media briefing held in Colombo today, parliamentarian Gamman-Pilla even challenged the UNP to form a national government before shifting its attention to increasing the number of ministers.
When the UNP was in the opposition, they always criticized the size of the Rajapaksa cabinet, labeling it as a jumbo cabinet. When they came to power, they brought a constitutional amendment to limit the cabinet ministers to 30 members just to deceive the public, and added a proviso that number of cabinet ministers can be increased by parliament by any number when there is a national government. According to Article 46(5), national government means a government formed by the political party which has obtained highest number of seats in parliament together with other political parties. There is not political party but political parties, it is in plural form. Therefore, the UNP cannot form a national government just joining hands with the SLMC. They need at least one more political party. According to the above article, you cannot bring resolutions to form a national government. National government should be formed outside the parliament. Thereafter, they should bring a resolution to increase the number of ministers based on they have formed a national government. Forming a national government is a prerequisite to increase the number of ministers. In September 2015, the General Secretary of the UPFA informed the Speaker that they form a national government. Thereafter, on 3rd of September 2015, a resolution was brought to increase the number of cabinet ministers to 48. Therefore, we challenge the government to first form a national government. Thereafter only they can increase the number of ministers to 48 or whatever they want.
We take you back to today's parliamentary session where matters pertaining to the death penalty on drug traffickers to the shortage of milk powder in the market was taken up for discussion. During the adjournment debate, meanwhile, TNA parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran staunchly rejected allegations levelled against him over delaying the debate pertaining to Bond Commission report. The parliamentarian, however, lamented the lack of action over the findings by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to probe the bond scam.
How many people are sentenced to death owing to drug smuggling? Where are the files which are allegedly missing, and who is behind delaying these sentences when the President is trying to implement it?
48 persons were sentenced to death by hanging. Out of them, 30 have appealed, which means only 18 were on the final list. We sent this list to the President's office in September last year along with their files.
Have you received any recommendations from the Presidential Secretariat after you submitted these files?
We sent these files along with the recommendations submitted by the Attorney General's office.
There is a shortage of imported milk powder in the market and companies are asking for a price hike. These companies have constantly called for it. A former officer of the Ministry of Health, who is now working for one of these companies, has been calling the minister with this request, but we have not taken a decision on the matter. When the Cost of Living Committee meets next week, we will make a decision, but until then, our ministry is not prepared to dance to the tune of these milk powder companies. The Consumer Affairs Authority have received complaints that certain imported milk powders contain pig oil mixed with lactose and palm oil. The Consumer Affairs Authority took samples and have given these samples for testing without telling what they are. These tests have now been abandoned. Now steps are being taken to obtain support of other countries.
It has been consistently for one full year told to the country that I stopped the Bond Commission report. I never said a word about the Bond Commission report because the Bond Commission report was in English and we had agreed to debate if it was in English. My only objection was that in terms of the party leaders meeting, the PRISIFAC report was not in English. Now, both reports have been translated and are available in all three languages. That is why I raised this again in January this year, and I wanted the debate because constantly false information is being provided to the country saying that I stopped the Bond Commission debate. That did not happen. And for today, for me to move the adjournment motion on the PRISIFAC report and for JVP to move the debate on the Bond Commission report on Friday.
Honorable Sumandiran's point that it is available in English does not comply with the provisions of language rules in the Constitution. So therefore, Honorable Sumandiran can't create new provisions. No. Except the provisions in the Constitution.
This report has been submitted to His Excellency on the 27th of November 2017. To date, we are unable to ascertain as to whether any one of those recommendations have been acted upon.
Now, the overseas travel ban imposed on chairman of the Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Jeffrey Aloysius, was lifted by the Colombo Magistrates Court this morning. The decision was made when the motion submitted by him seeking permission to travel abroad was taken up for deliberations. The attorneys representing the defendant informed the court that their client is to receive medical treatment in India and Singapore starting from the 13th of this month. In turn, the Criminal Investigation Department, however, stated there are no objections for the defendant's request to travel to India, but objected to him traveling to Singapore, saying that Jeffrey Aloysius failed to submit any documents proving that he is supposed to travel to Singapore to receive medical treatment. The Chief Magistrate subsequently ordered the PTL chairman to submit the relevant documents proving the need to travel to Singapore for medical treatment on the 25th of February and granted permission to travel to India from the 13th to the 20th of February.
Well, we have good news, Mahesh. After a week, the trade unions of the Sri Lanka Customs called off their trade union action. During these 7 days, Sri Lanka's economy incurred heavy losses, with the country losing some 80% of the daily revenue obtained by Sri Lankan Customs. And as many trade unions came together to protest the removal of PSM Charles as Director General of the department on the 30th of last month.
Now, Minister of Finance Mangala Samaraweera, who attended the cabinet meeting today, had given reasons as to why he had removed her from the post. He has, however, said that Charles will be reinstated for 3 months and she must produce progress reports regarding fraudulent activities taking place within Sri Lanka Customs.
The Work to Rule trade union action launched by trade unions of Sri Lanka Customs against the transfer of Director General PSM Charles continued for its 7th day today. Trade unions also raised strong objections against the appointment of a retired Navy officer as its new Director General. Over the past week, operations at the Customs headquarters as well as the container examination terminals at Orugodawata and Paliagoda came to a standstill. As a result of heavy losses incurred by the Essential Food Importers and Sellers, the Essential Food Importers and Traders Association closed wholesale shops in Petta for business today. They urged the government to resolve the issue immediately. Following these developments, it had been decided at the cabinet meeting today to reinstate PSM Charles as the Director General of Customs for 3 months.
The Minister of Finance explained as to why the former Director General of Customs was removed from her post. He raised his concerns on the former Director General not taking immediate action to address issues of corruption as well as low income generated by the customs. There is an allegation that she isn't looking into alleged fraudulent activity of exporting goods to India. So the Finance Minister said that he will be reinstating Charles as the Director General with the hope that she will give a progress report on all these issues before the next 3 months.
However, customs trade unions caution that an official document must be produced regarding the reinstatement of PSM Charles as the Director General. Meanwhile, Minister Ravi Karunanayake had this to say regarding the removal of Charles from his post recently.
මගේ විශ්වපදයට නෙමෙයිනේ දැන්.
ඒනොට ඔබතුමා දන්නවා.
මම හුඟ දේවල් දන්නවා නමුත්
ඊතරම අස්කරපු ගැන අධ්‍යක්ෂක ජනරාල්වරයා ඔබතුමා මොකද හිතන්නේ?
අසාධාරණයි.
Meanwhile, views were expressed in Parliament as well regarding the matter.
There is an attempt to vest the Department of Customs, the Department of Excise and Revenue Department with the private sector. The opposition leader accuses that this is an arbitrary decision of the government, but this is in fact a decision by the cabinet to appoint a navy officer for the post. As per your accusation, we must assume that all cabinet decisions are arbitrary.
Well, could the proposal of a free trade agreement with China by Sri Lanka be inked finally? We'll bring you details of that after this short commercial break. To stay with us.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Other Derana 24.
Business news now. A free trade agreement between Sri Lanka and China has been in the pipelines for quite some time, and now it emerges that a pact could be inked this year. In a recent article, the China Daily quoted the Sri Lankan embassy in China saying that the 6th round of negotiations to formulate the FTA was concluded in March 2017 and the FTA will be inked this year. The free trade agreement is expected to cover goods, services, investment and economic and technical cooperation. Quoting the Sri Lankan ambassador to China, Karunasena Kodituwaku, the article said that the Sri Lankan government hopes to bring more investment to the island to make Colombo Port City a financial centre in South Asia. Sri Lanka's ambassador to China was quoted as saying that the country also benefits from China's tourism market, with more than 260,000 Chinese tourists visiting the island last year. When First at 9 inquired into the progress of the FTA from the Secretary to the Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade, S.T. Kodikara, he revealed that measures are being taken to expedite talks which have been stalled for almost 2 years but cannot confirm if it will be signed this year. Now, according to Reuters, talks between China and Sri Lanka for a free trade agreement have hit major hurdles, mainly because Beijing will not agree to Colombo's demand for a review of the deal after 10 years.
Well, at the Colombo Stock Exchange, the benchmark all-share price index ended 0.01% weaker at 5,981.65, while it declined 1% in January. The turnover was 401.1 million rupees, less than half of last year's daily average of 834 million rupees. Foreign investors net sold 260.8 million rupees worth of shares, while there have been net sellers of 2.7 billion rupees so far this year. We have Hiruni Fernando from First Capital Holdings with a brief report.
In the bond market, secondary market yield curve remained mostly unchanged, with market witnessing thin volumes with limited activities as market participants continue to be on the sideline, adopting a wait-and-see approach ahead of tomorrow's primary bill auction. At tomorrow's auction, Central Bank is offering 2 billion, 6 billion and 16 billion of 3-month, 6 months and 1-year bill, with 3 months being offered after lapse of near 3 months. Thank you.
Well, Sri Lankan rupees appreciation continued today with importers purchasing the greenback after local currency gained nearly 3% last week. The currency ended at 178 rupees and 83 cents today, and it has appreciated 2.5% so far this year. Here's a look at IOR currency rates.
Well, Mahesh, with our 71st Independence Day celebration, I think we have something interesting that we hear from Ambalangura. Sea turtles are an endangered species, and any effort to enhance their numbers, whichever way they come, is most welcome. And with Sri Lanka's Day of Independence falling yesterday, sea turtle hatchings were released along the Uruwatta coastline in Ambalangura last evening to mark the significance of this day.
Indeed, foreign nationals from various countries took part in celebrating the 71st Day of Independence there as well.
Foreign nationals from various countries including Germany, Australia and England were seen releasing baby sea turtles to the ocean along the Uruwatta coastal line in Ambalangura last evening to mark the National Day. The event was organised by the Uruwatta Sea Turtle Conservation Centre in Ambalangura. The sea turtles, with all its species on the world's endangered list, hatched on the 2nd of February.
It's a very important day for Sri Lanka, 71 years of independence, so we're releasing 71 baby turtles into the ocean to celebrate.
We are celebrating the Independence Day of Sri Lanka, 71 years of independence, and that's why we released 71 little baby turtles.
That's quite nice to see. Lots of people from around the world joining us on our independence. Well, with that, let's go for a short commercial break. We'll be back with international news.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Other Derana 24.
Sports now. Sri Lanka Cricket today named the 4th new captain of Sri Lanka's Test side since Angelo Matthews stepped down as captain in 2017. Now, following a meeting of the selection committee this morning, it was announced that opening batsman Dimuth Karunaratne will lead the side in the 2 Test series in South Africa, with Niroshan Dikwella acting as his deputy. Karunaratne has been one of the few batsmen who managed to churn out good performances over the last couple of years, and they were reflected in his inclusion in the ICC International Test 11 for 2018. Now, Karunaratne's promotion to skipper means the absence of Dinesh Chandimal, who had a torrid run of form recently. Dilruwan Pereira, Roshan Silva and Sadira Samaravikrama are the other absentees from the Test series in South Africa, which is set to get underway in Durban next week. In the meantime, 4 uncapped players in Oshada Fernando, Angelo Pereira, Lasit Ambulania and Mohammad Shiraz are included in the 17-member squad, with Kaushal Thilwa and Milinda Sirivardhana also earning recalls.
Well, before we end tonight's edition of First at 9, we thought of ending the bulletin by taking you to Sigiriya. Sigiriya or Singhagiri, an ancient rock fortress located in the northern Matale district near the town of Dabulla in the central province, is referred by locals as the 8th wonder of the world, and this ancient palace and fortress complex is significant archaeological importance and attracts thousands of tourists every year. Log on to www.otherderana.lk for more. I'm Sigiriya.
And I'm Mahesh Johnny. Good night.